Hi, I'm here with my mom and dad, Elsie and Jim House. We're in Tucson, Arizona, and we're making this video to record some memories of my parents. The date is May
18th.
Somebody tell me 18th, 1997. As I said, we're here in Tucson at Ted and Chana's apartment. And so we're just going to be kind of talking and exploring the memories of these people. So one of the things, I've been thinking about all the things that I wanted to ask you and all the things that I wanted to hear about. So I'm going to sit over here so I can talk to you.
Sure.
Okay. So, let's just talk about your childhood and what you guys can remember about being young. Dad, what year were you born in?
January 14th, 1921.
1921. And where?
In Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. And you had brothers and sisters?
I had one of each, yes, a brother and a sister.
And you were in the middle? You had an older brother and a younger sister?
Yes, he's 5 years older than me.
And so what do you remember about growing up? Did you grow up there in Cambridge?
We were there for a few years, and then my father needed to get out in the country, so they moved to Bedford, Mass. Is that thing still going?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I went to school in Bedford, and then I went to high school in Lexington, and Elsie went to high school in Lexington too.
Oh, did you meet in high school?
Yes,
Well,
no, not really.
Not really.
We didn't fall in love in high school.
Uh-huh.
No.
That came later.
I met her in was that thing still going?
Yeah.
I met her in the what did you call them shows?
Minstrel show.
Minstrel show.
In a
You
minstrel
can't say that
show.
now. Now you got to say African American show or something like that.
Oh, it is a minstrel show.
So it is a minstrel show. And she was singing, "Ma, he's making eyes at me," and I was making eyes at her. I had my eye right on her.
Now, I want to hear more about that later. We'll talk some more. I want to hear about
We're
that.
talking about when we met.
And I'd like to hear about your childhood, what it was like growing up. I mean, this was the 1920s when you were a little kid. Do you remember about that? You know, what was it like?
Not an awful lot, except everybody was poor, because we were in a poor neighborhood. Is that thing going?
Mm-hmm.
Poor neighborhood in Cambridge, Mass. And the one thing I remember, Saturdays, we used to get a wheelbarrow, and there was a place down there that made jellies and stuff, and they got the watermelons, and it'd give you all the red stuff. They only used the rinds to make the jelly out of. Yeah.
And so
we used to take wheelbarrows and fill it up Saturday, have a watermelon feast every Saturday. All us kids. Yeah. Yeah. So,
what was your mother like, Dad? I don't remember her.
my mother was a beautiful woman.
You would have loved her.
Grace Coombs, and that's the mirror I gave you. That was her mirror. She had that when she was a child.
Grace.
A teenager.
Coombs.
She was a teenager. She had that mirror.
So you remember
So we
her?
wanted to give it to you.
Yeah, I love
Make sure
it.
you
I
got
love it. Let's just show it.
Yeah.
Let's just show it.
Show it to the camera. It's a beautiful piece.
Grace. Yes.
So tell me more about your mother.
Yeah, my mother was a great lady, struggling along. And my father got sick. We lived in Cambridge, and I forget, I was only a kid. But then we had to move to Bedford, Massachusetts. And he worked in the veteran hospital there, and I was still a kid growing up. And it wasn't long before I got a motorcycle. And that's how I went to see, I made a paper, I think you've seen the paper. I used to take the Harley Davidson and go over to Burlington. And,
Does this look funny on my lap?
No.
Oh, you say something else. I'm
look fine.
horse.
They're talking about...
Dad's getting hoarse.
Oh, all right. Well,
Let's talk about you being born and stuff.
I was actually born in a private hospital because it was a friend of Mama and Daddy's. And I was born June 15th, 1919. And Well, I had a problem. Mother got real sick after I was born, and we were both rushed to a real hospital, and Mother was not expected to live.
I'm not sure I understand what a private hospital is.
The doctor owns it.
Oh.
The doctor owns it. That's all it amounts to.
So it's like a
And-
doctor's office, but
and
it's more
We bought
elaborate.
our little house, and my mother and dad bought our little house in Burlington, where the house that we did own stands.
It was a doctor's camp.
It was just a camp, one room camp, I think. But anyways, that's where I was born, and we lived in Cambridge for a while. And I can remember a May party when we walk along the roof singing, you know, the May Pole song.
Oh.
And of course, I suppose I ought to talk about my streetcar.
Tell them about the streetcar run over you.
I was
Yes.
I was probably 3 or 4. I really feel I remember all this, but I can't tell whether I remember it or whether people told me so many times. But I saw the ball go out into the street. I saw the streetcar coming, and it went over me.
And how old were you?
About 3 or 4 years old. I think might have been 4. But I was between the wheels. It was one of God's time of saving me.
So you weren't injured at all?
I wasn't injured at all. Little scrape, you know, just a scrape, the salt in the street. And like I say, I can't really know whether I remember this or whether I've been told so many times about it. Yeah. And we lived in Cambridge for a few years, and then we moved out to Burlington in that little house. And Wally came along after. Mother had Jim, Elsie, Wally. Wally is the one that died. Wally came along while we were still in Cambridge. And so did Kenny, my other brother. And Peggy was born when we got to Burlington, and Barbara was born.
Do you remember your mother having difficult births, or?
Yeah,
She did.
she had, because in those days what they have natural births now was almost what she had. And she spent a long time in the hospital. You know, it wasn't like maybe 14 to 16 days she would be in there. Even with Barbara, she was there a long time. But she loved to read, and she was a very, very good reader, you know, read very well, and she would gather us all around every night before
Really?
we'd all go to bed and read to us.
What would she
No.
read?
Oh,
What things would she read?
different books and different things. And one of the favorite ones was Bird's Christmas Carol, which you had the book. I don't know if you still have it or not.
I do have it.
And that's good, because that you can't find that book anymore. And we used to look forward to that at Christmas time, Bird's Christmas Carol. She always made a big deal. I wrote this grandmother's book, and I wanted to give it to Ted, and I didn't bring it. I can't remember one of my birthdays. I really have trouble trying to remember my birthdays, and I don't know why, because I know Mother always made a fuss over birthdays. And one of them was when I got my little rocker. I think I was about 5. The little rocker that I got in my living room.
Yes.
And what else did I do?
So you grew up there, and you had many siblings. There was 6 of you, weren't there?
6 of us, yeah. And like Daddy used to say, every week was a pair of shoes.
Imagine.
And the worst one was me. I was the hardest on shoes, and I had to have the most expensive ones because of my arch. I had a low arch in my left foot. I never could wear sneakers like other kids did. I used to love to wear sneakers. That's why I like to wear these things like they.
So they were wearing
nowadays-
sneakers then, huh?
They were called sneakers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And nowadays they're called athletic shoes or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And of course, you know, I went to camp 3 or 4 years.
And so you two knew each other in high school, but you didn't really date?
Not really, no.
I didn't know that.
No, she was in a minstrel show in Burlington when I met
That's
her.
how.
What was that minstrel show? What was that for?
But you can't do that now
You were just
because now
involved in
it's
a show?
African American.
Yeah.
It
That's
used to be
cool.
a minstrel show.
Yeah.
You can't do that now.
Can't do what?
Because the blacks don't want to be told about the blacks.
In the old days in Burlington, you know, when we were going to put on a show in our old town hall, which they tore down and I cried when they did. But anyways, you bought the show and the show came in and all the talent came from the town. See, costumes and everything they furnished. Scenery, costumes and everything they
Wow.
would furnish. And this was one of those shows. And I didn't sing it alone, I was in a chorus and we were singing He's Making Eyes at Me.
Now, I remember that song,
And
but
I was.
Ted and Jonathan
Yeah.
had never heard it. But I remember that
Yeah, it's a
song, and I
beautiful
remember
song.
that tune. It's
Yeah.
lovely.
Did you want me to sing it?
And I worked in Jaleo's farm in Burlington when I was a kid. And she used to walk by going down the old swimming hole with a whole bunch of other people.
Oh, yeah?
And I was working
And he
with
threw
her.
tomatoes at
Did
us.
you
Yeah,
notice
we
her
threw
then?
tomatoes at
Oh, you
her.
were throwing tomatoes at her then?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we used to walk 3 miles to the old swimming hole and 3 miles back again. That was 6 miles every day. And
Wow.
when we got almost to the swimming hole, we would all talk very loud to give boys a chance to put on their bathing
So
suits.
there's some skinny dippers in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was some. that
So
was
you were
great.
in a minstrel show.
Yeah.
And I was in the minstrel show, and Jim came in. It was after that we.
Did you see him? Or did
Oh,
he
yes.
approach
Oh,
you?
yeah.
No, he came
I
because
made damn
he
sure
knew
she
I
saw
was
me.
there.
So you went and met her after the show or something?
Yeah.
Well, actually, he had come over on his bicycle, not his motorcycle. He said his motorcycle, but it was really his bicycle. And not that night, earlier, one other time. And, you know, he was
Oh,
flirting
so
with
you
me,
knew he
and I
was
flirting
flirting
with you. Yeah. So that's,
So
I knew
anyway,
him.
when I got through school, I decided to be a mechanic. And then it's such a greasy, grimy, crappy job, I decided to get the hell out of that, you know? And I kind of went into construction, and just then the war was starting up, World War II I'm talking about, of course. And so anyway, I joined the union and went on as a carpenter. And I've been one ever since. All my life I've been a carpenter.
You can drink your water.
Union carpenter, you know? Yeah. So I was in the service 3 years and 8 months, and it seemed like 50 years to me, because I wanted to marry Elsie and have a family and all that business, but I couldn't do it. There was a war going on, you know? Yeah.
He took me to the Bedford Cemetery and gave me my first gift, which was a camera. And then on our first Christmas together, we had this little gift shop where we used to always shop. And he went and bought a Christmas card for me when I wasn't around, and I bought a Christmas card for him when he wasn't around. And Christmas Day, we discovered we bought the same card.
Guess what? Yeah.
Talk about the same mind.
Uh-huh.
So it's hard to remember everything. We've been married 54 years now.
And that's when he gave me my diamond. He gave me a hope chest on my first Christmas. And then
Now, that was before the war?
before the war, he jumped
You got
ahead.
married before the war?
No,
or
no,
after the war?
we were married down in
She says that's why you got married, because of the war.
I did not say that.
What year did you guys get married?
February
1942.
23rd, 1943.
43.
February 23rd, 1943.
And you were married in Reno?
No, we were married in
No,
Goldsboro, North
Goldsboro,
Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh, how did I get
He
down?
was stationed there,
I was stationed there.
and
And you traveled there to be with them?
I was in the aircraft, and they had to go to 2 or 3 aircraft schools to learn about the function of the engines and how the machine is built and all that business. So I went to 3 schools.
I was working in the General Electric plant because it was the wartime.
In Lynn, Massachusetts.
In Lynn, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me the girls gave me a going away party at the GE plant. It was money. I forget how they gave it to me. It was money. They took up a correction.
They gave you money?
Yeah. And then, of course, 9 months later, they gave me another shower.
So
Exactly 9 months after we got married, she had our first baby.
Well, that's good timing.
Yeah, really timed it out.
Were you planning to have 4 children?
That was our wish, to have 4 children.
Yeah.
And we did. I expected to have 2 girls, 2
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. David was supposed to be a girl, but it didn't work out.
When we had Butch, yeah. And then when Jack, we had Butch during the war, you know, and he traveled with us to Reno
It was a
and
war
everywhere
baby.
he went,
Yeah.
we went.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we had Jack, well, I was positive that I was going to have a girl.
A girl that time.
Because, see, Mother had a boy and then she had a girl, so I thought I'd be just like her. But oh no, I got a boy. And the funny, I had the same private nurse. She was my nurse. And she, of course, Mother come in fussing her head off that she wanted me to have a special nurse. And I had twilight sleep, which is...
What does that mean? Twilight sleep?
Well, they knock you out, and at the time, you're out, but you're not out, and you remember everything. And I guess I raised holy heck.
Oh.
Yeah. But when Peggy and Mother came to see me, I told them all about everything that went on in the delivery room. Well, then, a day or 2 later, when they came to visit, I'd say, did you know what the nurse told me I did? And Peg said, we already told you. You already told us that, see, so I didn't know. Yeah.
Was Peg already, did she marry Bud before you guys were married?
She married
or?
Bud while we were still in Reno.
Now, what were you doing in Reno?
Reno, Nevada. I was going to
He was in the service.
Air Force. I was
See,
in the
I thought
service.
you got married out there somehow.
No,
You did?
no, we got married
married
in Goldsboro, North
North
Carolina.
Carolina. Yeah.
We also
So then
spent-
after that, you went to Reno?
Then I
Well,
was stationed in Reno.
no, I
No,
got
no,
a telegram
We
before
had to
that,
go to
and it said, be in Buffalo on Wednesday
Buffalo,
or
New York. I had to
Thursday,
go to school
be
there.
there.
Learn about airplanes, you know.
So I had to pack up a baby and head out for Buffalo. And that was about the nicest place that I ever
I
stayed.
should say so. Tell her that.
Because
Wonderful people.
wonderful people. We went out. We were looking for apartments.
We went to a restaurant.
And we went to a restaurant.
This girl
And-
is waiting on tables.
Yes. And so she said, I'll ask my aunt. I think she might know where
Where's the place?
there's a place. Well, the next morning, this lady calls up and she says, gather up all your things and get a taxi and come out to, and she gave us the street name. When the taxi pulled up, and this was a nice house, brick house, beautiful place, she came right out to the cab, took Butch in her arms and said, my name's Aunt Sadie. And she brought us into the house. And then she had to go down to the store, and she says, if a man comes along, call him Uncle Walt. So they found
Sadie's
us,
husband.
and they found us an apartment. We stayed a week or 2, I think, with them in the house. And,
And then you went to Reno.
and then we went to Reno after that. But Jim went ahead of me.
Oh.
Yeah. And Howard and we were playing. Jimmy sent me the money. He got lucky in poker or something, and he sent me the money for to come out. And Howard and Mary were going to get married, and Mary wanted me to be her maid of honor. But what happened was my sister, she said, "Oh, no way, you're not going to go all the way in a train, you're going to fly." So here we are. We get on the plane, Butch, and the captain of the plane in those days came and got you. You know how now they just say pre-board.
Really?
No, he came and got us, luggage. And you know what? We had to get on the scale. Luggage, baby, and mother, all on the scale
No
before we
kidding.
got on the plane. Yeah. But that was full of
Was it a
jets.
military plane?
No, that was
No, civilian plane,
And
but
they-
we were military
The
people.
captain would come and get
he'd
you?
come and
Yeah.
get, he'd come and got you.
Wow.
But
Once you had the baby.
then we went to New York, and then we changed planes in New York, and I did okay there. The same thing, captain pre-boarded me, and then it flew over to Detroit, Cleveland, and they took me off the plane because I didn't have a priority. In the war times, you had to have a priority in order to fly civilian airplanes, and I didn't have a priority, so they took me off the plane. Oh, here I am with this baby in my arms in the plane, and the captain says, "Damn shame," he says. And just as we're going by the desk, the girl said, "Just a minute, Mrs. Howes, I think we're going to get you right back on again." Along comes this ensign with this priority. That was in. So I spent the night in Cleveland. And
Where?
then it was May.
I mean, did you have to stay in a hotel? Or
No, I just
slept in the airport?
airport with a baby. And then,
And how old was Jim? Was he like a year old?
no,
or?
yeah,
About,
it was about
He
a
was
year.
still
A little over a year, yeah. And easy though, he was easy, awful easy,
Was he?
yeah. And he was off the bottle. He was 8 months, he
Wow.
didn't have a bottle, yeah. Anyways, then, I thought I heard them calling me, so I went looking to the desk, and so then they boarded me on another plane. And I went to Detroit. And they took me off the plane again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I said,
wartime.
Yeah,
I cashed the ticket in. I'm going the rest of the way by train.
there you go.
I did. I thought this is going to happen all the way.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did. They cashed my ticket in. They got me a, I guess I took a taxi out to the train station. And I met an awful nice girl there that kind of helped me and looked out for me.
Were you scared?
Oh,
Like
it's
doing
right.
all that traveling by
I
yourself
was
with a
right.
baby?
Yeah,
And you
I
were
was.
young.
And of course, while I was on the airplane was when Dad and Mother got word about Wally. And of course the whole town of Burlington came to see Mother and Dad. And Daddy didn't want to see anybody, so he went up by himself. Well, when I finally got on the train in Chicago, I went into a real deep sleep. And my father woke me up. He said my name as if he was standing beside me on the plane. And of course his mind was with me because they knew that
You weren't there.
that I had trouble on my plane and they didn't know just where I was.
Mhm.
Because I sent a telegram to Jimmy, you know. That was quite a trip, I tell you. Anyways, from then on, I knew something was wrong with Wally.
Because your father's voice had
Because of
woken
him
you up.
telling me that. That. All I could think about was Wally,
He was a B-29, a radio man.
radio man.
Who was missing. Missing in
It
action.
actually, we think it blew up in the air.
Yeah.
We're not sure. There were never any remains. Anyways, then you see, the boys on the plane, this was a troop plane, the boys on the plane were real nice. There were so many soldiers on it. And they'd hold him while we'd be in line waiting to eat and everything. And I never left the train at all. And I waited. They'd bring me back through or stuff like that, but I stayed right with him the whole time. But the night that I was going to get off, 2 o'clock in the morning, I had no idea where I was going. I had no address. Everybody in the car was wide awake, waiting for me to get off the train to see if I was going to have anyone. And there he was.
I was waiting for him.
Yeah, he was there.
Thank goodness.
Biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. But that was, he had rented this room from this lady who I called Nan Hanson. I got to know her real well. She, in fact, I don't know if you remember her coming to visit us in Tewksbury, but she did. She came once.
I remember hearing about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah. We went to visit her in Oregon. So
How long did you stay in Reno?
Too long.
Almost
Too
a year, I
long.
think, yeah. Butcher
Wow.
turned 2 while we were there. And then Jim had to go to Sacramento to
Get
end his
discharged.
military career. And I stayed in Reno. But I spent one whole day
I
while
considered
we...
staying out there in Reno too.
Yeah, we
There's
liked
jobs
Reno
everywhere.
a lot.
Well, everybody's at war and they were looking for
And he was
people.
working
And I was
part-time.
running operating the gas station. And it was a pretty good job. But I changed my mind. My mother was sick, so I said, well, I gotta get home.
Well, it was turning to Christmas.
Yeah,
It
oh,
was
close to
December.
Christmas too, yeah.
What year?
42, wasn't it? That's
No,
when,
no,
well, that's when I got married.
no, that'd be 44
No,
or
44, 5.
somewhere around there.
The war was still going on.
No, yeah,
when
I
you
guess
left
it
Reno.
just got over. That's how you got
The war was
discharged.
over
The
when
war
we
just
left
got
Reno.
over.
Oh, you didn't get discharged
Oh, I've
until
got
it
to
was
tell you
over.
about the end of the war.
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
me about
We went down Reno Center, you know, and the boys have got on red ties and fanciest socks they can wear and kissing all the girls,
All the
every
soldiers.
girl, the
All the
soldiers,
soldiers.
grabbing everybody and hugging and kissing them. We just had
Everybody's
one
so-
big
How
sock.
did you
So
first
happy.
hear about it?
Jimmy called me during the night.
that.
And he said they took some big bomb over, talking about the
They sure
atom
did.
bomb,
Right.
and he said the war is over.
It was over.
The war is over.
The Japs found out we were sick of them cheating on us.
I couldn't wait.
Terrible.
So then everybody celebrated.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
she
a big
says so.
celebration, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, but one day, Jim said he was going to have to go overseas to India, I think.
Yeah.
On the well, I spent the whole day crying and wondering what I was going to do. I had half planned to go to beauty culture school while I was there, if Jim went overseas. So he come home, and he called up one of his officers, and he said, "We don't want a crew chief, we want an assistant."
Donna talks about mountains. We were stationed in Reno, Nevada. It was all mountains everywhere. So our job as a crew chief, I had an airplane with a pilot and a whole crew. There was 10 men on my crew. And anyway, our job was to get that plane up and then go right up to get over the mountains. Because they were practicing flying these airplanes to go to Himalaya where the war base stopped. That's where they wanted to get all the supplies. And that was our job, to train them pilots to get that thing up and get over the mountains. Don't run into the mountains, they're hard. So that was the theory of why we were there in Reno, Nevada.
So then getting over to the end of the war, we went on a troop train with Butch. And they had no dining hall. They had no dining hall until we got to Chicago. And they gave us a box lunch, and it was the driest whole thing, and none of us ate it. And so when we got to Chicago, and got on the train in Chicago,
Pepper, do you want some water?
the
Yeah.
the,
Thank you, Ted.
I said to Jim, we'll just order one big breakfast for me and one for you, and we won't order one for Butch because, you know, well,
He's
it was
only a kid, you
He's
know,
just
you know,
tiny.
he's only-
Yeah, he was only 2 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I looked down and I had no food.
Yeah, a lot of that.
He just ate.
He was
He
hungry,
a
huh?
poor kid, he was
Yeah.
so hungry.
Oh.
That whole day we hardly had any food on that troop train.
Did he behave?
Oh,
I mean, I
he was
can't
the
imagine
best
having
boy.
a 2-year-old.
He was
He
good.
was the
He was
best
good.
boy in
Yeah.
the world.
He was a good
But
child,
a
yeah.
wonderful child,
Yeah.
yeah.
He was the same as Jason and Justin. Justin and Jason both cautious. He's a
I
big
think it's
scaredy
it.
cat. You wouldn't
Yeah.
know that he ever.
I know, my goodness.
We
We
wouldn't
never
even
went
go
to parent school. We had 4 marvelous children, and we never went to school. They were all marvelous. They're just wonderful people. They're all. I'm proud of all of them.
Well,
That's all I want to say.
I guess I was easy in some ways, but I never would tolerate defiance. You know, and I had a board of education.
I don't remember any of us ever defying you, did we?
The boys did.
You were
sometimes.
good kids, I'm telling
You
you.
didn't.
You were
No,
the
I had
greatest
no
kids.
problems with you. That's why when on
I don't
Harriet
remember
was-
the boys defying you either, but I might not just not remember.
Well, sometimes they would do it just to get me going.
Yeah,
But I had this board of education.
I remember
It was
it.
hanging in the closet.
Yeah.
I remember it.
And I never used it,
never used
but
it.
I showed it a lot.
I remember you always being busy with us kids,
I
You
did,
know,
yeah.
doing different, we were always
Yeah.
busy doing something. You were always involved with us,
Yeah,
you know.
that's what I did too.
I have to keep talking to now, not to take things in the church. You're too old. Let somebody else do it. you
Yeah,
know?
I'm ready to
She's a
go to
wonderful
She
the.
thinks she
organizer.
can. She thinks she's the minister. I think.
No,
You
I
don't
like
let other
to go.
people do stuff. Come in and take over. Go ahead, do
No,
it.
you see, honey, the trouble of it is, Wendy comes in and she's got 3 small children. See? Now, if she has to go down to the nursery with those 3 small children, even though the whole service is piped into the nursery,
Speak of it.
you can't hear it. There's too much confusion.
It's ridiculous.
And it's not fair to her. That's why I go. 'Cause Wendy might as well stay home. What's the sense of, so that's why, and he won't, well, it was true, I was just getting over being sick, so I didn't go a couple of Sundays.
Mother, so you learned that your brother was missing while you were in Reno,
Well,
and you didn't get a chance to go home, or
no,
not until
not
like
until
a few
the war
years
was
later?
over. No,
Or
it
was it not?
shortly after.
Shortly after.
Shortly after, I went home, and Uncle Kenny landed right in Wally's face the day after Wally was missing. 'Cause they never, mother and Dad never knew what happened to him, you know, 'cause they just say he's
War is
missing.
terrible. Nobody knows.
And
what
it's a
happened.
year after, you know, they wait a whole year before they declare them dead.
That's why Maya and I went to Hawaii. We found him. We found Wally. Just
Found
like
him
we
in-
found Jack today. We
Found
found
in
Wally
the punch
in
bowl.
Hawaii. He was on the board down there.
On
We
the
found him.
punch bowl. Well, he was in
That's
a
the best we could do.
missing in action, yeah.
It's on a,
And we went
some
on that
kind of a-
Arizona tip.
big,
You ever hear
huge-
about that Arizona?
Yes.
Thing like
Those
the
Japs
war
dropped the bomb
memorials
and
that
killed
they
all
have
those
in
people.
Washington.
They couldn't even get out of the
That's
ship.
the punch
ship
bowl.
sinks and
Oh.
150 people dead. One ship. Terrible.
On the Arizona.
Yeah, on the Arizona. It's
That,
terrible.
that is a crying place. And you know, when you land in Hawaii, they put delay on you, you know, and people bring it so, for when they go to the Arizona, because you can't get on the Arizona any other way except on a commissioned boat, because it is still commissioned. And you throw the lay, because it's just a monument on top of this thing that is down in the water, this
You
ship.
see it? You
Yeah.
see that?
No, I've never
It's
seen
a
it.
crying
You gotta
place.
see it.
It is, it really is. Because those men were there and they were alive for so
Banging
long
on the side
and
of the
nobody
ship.
could get to them. They
Awful.
just couldn't get, well, they didn't have the facility because this thing down in Hawaii was so unexpected, you know, because they were trying to make peace with us in Washington while they're planning this attack. Hawaii, and so we were at war.
That's just Kyle.
Okay.
So,
So-
did you want to go on?
Yeah, where are we now?
Yes,
We're
so
still
you
in the
left
war.
Reno.
So we left Reno,
We left Reno.
and we came home, and
Where was home?
home was, we went to Mother and Dad's, which we did
In Burlington.
in Burlington. And Wally's wife was there, Vicky, the girl that he married before he was with her 2 children. And they really didn't have room for us. So we went over to Jimmy's mother's, over to Nana
Bedford.
House in
To
Bedford.
Bedford.
Bedford, yes.
But I will tell you about Butchie. He was barely a year old when we left to go to Reno. And I had to go to the bathroom. And when I come out of the bathroom, here he is, walking down, and he was a very shy kid, walking in South Station with my father and Barbara. He remembered them. Now, he wouldn't go to anybody at all. He was so shy.
Wow.
But I was so surprised at his memory, you know, to remember
Yeah.
in that long a time.
So you lived in Bedford
So
for a
then-
while.
We stayed in Bedford until we found an apartment in Bedford, and we stayed there with Butch, and I had Jack while I was there.
I see.
And then, I guess we told you the other night, we were out riding with Harriet and Rockin', and we were looking for a place to rent, and we went by this house in Tewksbury, and it said for rent. And so Harriet was with us, and her and I went in to see the lady, and she said, I have a lot of people looking at this apartment, but I kind of like you 2 ladies.
It wasn't
I'll
an
let you know.
apartment, it was a little
It was a little
cottage.
cottage in Tewksbury, down the
Jewish lady.
street from the house that Daddy built.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we stayed there a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, but her husband had told us that we could have some land for $200.
She says, how much did he say? I said, well, he told me he'd give it to me for $200.
And
So-
he died,
He
very
died,
suddenly,
yeah.
so we thought
Very suddenly.
that deal was off,
And
you
she
know.
says, well, if that's what he said, okay, you can have
If
it
that's
for
what he
200.
said, you can have it.
But there was no clear title, Ted. We had to have the title cleared. I forget how much
We
that
got
was.
a quick claim deed,
Quick claim deed. yeah.
and what happened, we tried
So
to
you
find
got the property for $200?
$200, and I was telling Ted, I just made a box. I took a cigar box, you know what a cigar box is? And I took this, they have this like wallpaper, but it's sticky on one side, and you cut the square you want, and then you peel it off, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Contact
stuck it
paper.
all around. Yeah, and the box looks like a dream box. Then I have 3 books when I built this house, and on the front page it says, this is how for 3 years and $6,000 you can build a house. M-O-L. You know what M-O-L means?
No.
More or less. Because we used to take money from our paychecks and this and that.
Oh.
I had a 1935 Ford.
Oh,
I took
it
out
was
the
not
back
times.
seat. I got a paper on that somewhere too. And I used to bring 10 cement blocks home after work every day to put in the foundation for this house I built in Tewksbury.
And when I said
and we had a
enough-
$5,000 mortgage, but it wasn't enough. I had to go get another 1,000. And she says, wait a minute, you can't make any more than that, otherwise you lose the GI loan. We had a GI loan for 4% when I got out of the Army. So we built that house for $6,000 and it took 3 years.
But Ted, you had to have the roof shingled and the chimney up before you
You get a
signed
payment.
your mortgage.
Huh.
It was, the mortgage was approved and everything, but they had to have an inspection on that house. You had to have the roof shingled and the chimney up.
That's interesting.
Imagine, that's what we had to do with the little bit of money we had. I mean, this wasn't the 6,000 that we borrowed. So I said, I'm going to the bank and I'm going to get this money. So I did. Well, we're paying encyclopedias, Sears and Roebucks, and
Yeah.
what,
Had to have a car.
you know,
Having babies all the time. You know,
And what were you doing for work, Dad?
I've been a carpenter all my life.
And so, anyways, I had, it was vice president of that bank, and I told him everything. I was very honest, and I said, I'm going to get this money today if I have to go to a, finance company. And he said, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that, he said. So, anyways, I did. I got home with money, and Jimmy was able to buy the cement blocks.
So when you first started building the house, you were living in that other small
We lived in that
apartment
little
or
cottage that we rented from Mrs. Swartz, $40 a month. We're paying rent.
And it got
Wow.
to be very
Mrs.
difficult,
Swartz.
because we
Good
had to
deal.
pay $40 on the little house and $40 on the big
new
one once
house.
we
Oh.
signed
On our
it.
mortgage.
And
So
you
we're-
had 2 kids in that little
Yeah,
cottage.
yeah.
Yes, I had 3. Donna came while I was in there.
She
Yeah,
did.
she came while I was there.
David was supposed to be another girl, but he's a good boy.
Yeah, that was a really small house, but
He turned out good.
it was a dollhouse, really, you know. Like I
Was
say,
that house gone? I wouldn't have
No.
known.
No,
they
still
built
there.
around it.
Still there.
The structure more or less is there, but somebody put
Oh.
siding on it and built around
And
it.
Dad, how did you possibly know how to build a house? Was it because you had been doing carpentry? And
No,
I mean,
basically.
how would you know where to begin building a house?
Yeah, no, basically, yeah, I picked it up from working on jobs, you know, and watching
Oh,
things.
and Daddy drew the plans.
And her father drew the plans, Pa Olford.
for
Grandpa Ophir.
Yeah.
Grandpa Ovid
yeah.
did, yeah. And,
He was a contractor or something, wasn't he?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, actually, he hardly ever worked with his tools. He was
Yeah.
a superintendent.
superintendent more
And
than
clerk of the works
constructor.
and-
Yeah,
But a brilliant
Yeah.
man, and he drew the plans for us. And he come in, and they pulled up in the yard with this $1,200, honey, of lumber.
the lumber, yeah.
And
Yeah, $1,200, that was one
I
of the
didn't
payments.
sign a paper.
No.
Ted, I told you how the Lord loves me. You know what happened?
The laborers went
The
on strike.
laborers went on strike.
So we kind of
So all the
went
guys
out with them
came
more or
over.
less to help.
to frame the
strike them,
house.
you know.
One of the
Oh,
neighbors said,
because they were on
I
strike.
looked out, one neighbor said, I looked out and
Yeah.
there was no house,
We
and
just
I looked
shot
out
it right
and there
up.
it was.
Yeah.
There wasn't a stick left, you know. And you see, this guy, he got 6% off the price because it was within so many, before the end of the month. or
Yeah,
some-
something like- some
something
time
like that, he
element,
got a
yeah,
break,
yeah.
because, and of course, the bank
Yeah.
came over and we didn't have the finished roof done because the chimney hadn't been really made, it was in the way, it was going up, but they okayed it. You know, they just wanted to see that you were
Yeah.
doing all right. Oh, but well, we were so poor.
Tell us about it.
What we did is, after we moved out of the little house, first Jimmy said to the plumber, I need the bathroom done. I've got to have the bathroom done because I've got to have water. So we got that, and we used the water from the little sink in the bathroom. We had the shower and everything. And then we put our kitchen, was that little room off of our room.
Do you
And-
remember the upstairs
The upstairs bedroom.
Anna Graham's bedroom? There was a small
But I
bedroom
have to
off
tell you
that.
in between there about what happened. He had a cement block or something fall on his foot and broke his toe.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So you know what happened? We went on vacation. When you go on vacation and you're building a new house, what happens? Along came David.
How did you guys afford to go on vacation?
We went to see Annie Peg.
How do you pay?
Down in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's all we did. I remember we were driving along, and we were going about 80 miles, and Peggy says, "Are the tires good on this car?" And Jim says, "Well, the two back ones are good, but the front ones I think are in the tubes."
Oh gee.
Yeah,
Oh, I
think
tell
I
you,
say,
take
we-
chances when you.
We never had a credit card until a year ago. We don't use credit, we only buy what we can afford. And we had this thing, it's still available too. If we needed a refrigerator or something, you buy it for 3 months, 3 payments, no interest.
Mm.
So we always bought
That's
things
how
that
we-
way.
Do you
I don't mind.
remember like getting your first TV or
Oh,
did you always
yes.
have
Oh,
TV?
yeah.
Oh, that's an
Oh, yeah.
experience. We were still down the little house, and this fellow come to the door and he said, "I'd like to put a TV in
I'd like to
your
leave
house."
this TV with you.
I said,
It was a
"Sure,
door-to-door TV
come
salesman?
ahead."
Yeah.
And the poor guy, he never knew. Because Jimmy comes home from work and all the kids in the
All the
neighborhood
kids in the
are
neighborhood are in
looking
our
at
house.
this TV.
Yeah.
And he never
This
knew
was
that,
about
that he
1950 when
sold
they
us a
first come out.
TV, but not his. He came back and got his, and we went right to see us and got a TV. That was our first TV.
Wow.
Before color. You know, before color.
Yeah. It just sounds like listening to you talk. I'm trying to imagine what family life was like in those days. Because it seems
I
so
met the
complicated.
right girl and I had a beautiful family.
But it was,
I'd do it all over again.
you
Yeah.
see, the
Do it all over
difference
again.
is the economy was such that the mothers didn't work. You see, we didn't go into a,
No, that's
I-
what I
I
told you. You
started
stay home and
working
watch these kids. You
when
don't
the
work.
kids got old
That's it.
enough to go to school, you know.
But tell them
Never
what
did
you
work.
done. Put it up there with what you done. She made all that doll dress stuff. Tell them about that.
Yes, I did.
You
I
worked for Vogue Doll.
sewed
I
for this
remember
Vogue
that.
doll, you
Yeah.
know, that doll.
Good.
Well,
She made $40 some weeks.
what happened was this Don Sears truck pulled up and we owed $40 to Sears.
40's a happy
And he
number.
says, "I want your sewing machine." And I
Late
said,
on the payment or something.
Repossession.
you can't have my sewing machine. You can have the TV, because we
Take
couldn't
the
even
TV.
plug it in, because we didn't even have electricity in the house, you know. We just had a wire coming from a neighbor's house. I couldn't.
And the sewing
run-
machine was a treadle.
And, no, the sewing machine was electric. I was using the sewing machine on that power, but.
On the power that was plugged into
That was
the
plugged
next door
in,
neighbor's.
yeah. So anyways, I called Sears the next day and I said, we just can't have our credit ruined,
Credit.
you know, because we're building a
A
house
whole bunch of
and we
laundry
need
going up the
credit.
street there.
Who cares? They're supposed to be talking into it.
Okay, keep talking.
We're making a movie here, Dad.
So then, the fellow on the, he said, "That's all right, Mrs. House, just send the $40.
Yeah.
And while you're about it, he said, do you need any work done on your TV or nothing?" You know, we didn't have nothing to do with it because the TV
Hi,
was
Blackie.
okay. And it was a struggle. It was a
It was
struggle.
a struggle. We got through it.
We had, and Grandpa House, every Christmas would give us money, you know, as gifts. Give each of you kids $5 or $10, and Jim and I maybe 20. And off we'd go to get some finish work. But by that time, we were getting ready to do finish. Oh, I guess I got to tell you about the plaster.
Yeah, tell them about the plastic.
It was winter, and it was around Christmas time, and the plaster was just dripping. The front door would not shut. We had no furnace.
We didn't have the
We
heat
had a
on.
stove in the living room going into our fireplace. That was the only heat we had. Oh, we were freezing. So we packed up the kids and went over to my mother's. And they weren't there. They were in California. And Auntie Harriet and Uncle Rock were there with their kids. They had moved into Mother and Dad's house. That's before we had the upstairs apartment. That's when we used the whole house. So we went over there and stayed. Well, I think we just stayed overnight, didn't we? Or did we? I don't even think we stayed. We just went over there to get warm a little bit, and then we came
And
home.
then you went back.
Climbed into bed, yeah. But anyways, once the plaster got dry, and then we had to begin to do the finish work. So
That's Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
he's listening, bless his heart,
Yeah.
he'll be here.
That's the story. Hi, Blackie.
Well,
Where are we? You're to the plaster.
Well, I'm still trying to imagine you with 3 little ones in this house with no heat.
Yep. And I told you about sweeping the floor. You know.
You told me.
Well, you see, we're upstairs, and all we had for flooring were the planks, you know. And I've always kind of been a neat housekeeper. Used to be frustrated, but as I had kids, and so the boys had the bunk beds, and Donna had her own little bed, and then Jim and I slept in what was our living room, bedroom, you know. And anyways, I would sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep and pick up what I could. Well, of course, it was all going down on the first floor, so I had to down the first floor and sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep, and that's all going down the cellar.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up with much. But, and of course, the stairs, the doctor came to see Butch because he had a little strep throat or something, and he almost died with the stairs because, you know, if the kid fell, he'd go right all the way down to the cellar because it was all unfinished. But we did, and of course, in all this, we had Jimmy's mother very sick. She had a colostomy, if you know what that is.
Yes.
And, I mean, I was,
Were you taking care of her?
I,
She was still in her
I
own
had
house.
to give her enemas. No, she was with us.
Oh, she stayed with us?
Yeah, well, we brought her home from the hospital, and then we moved up into the other house. While we were still in the little house, I started to take care of her. The nurse told me I had to give her enemas in the hole in her stomach. And it's funny, I said to,
It's still going, Ted.
Still going?
I said to Ma, I know that I'm going to throw up and be sick and everything. I promise you, I will never do it again. And of course the smell, and I had to wash all the sheets and everything, you know. And so I went up to the new house and I sat on a log and I prayed to the Lord to help me, you know, because I didn't, one thing, it's bad enough to be sick, but you don't want somebody being sick around you, and I knew I couldn't do that again. And I didn't. I never did that again. I took care of her as long as I could. And then she went over to Harriet's house, and we sort of watched her together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she died that September. Yeah. She died that September of the cancer. See, they never could take her cancer out. It was too big. But then, on top of all that, yeah, we had her. The grandpa helped out a lot around, did enough. In the book, it talks a lot about grandpa helping daddy in this work, you know, on the house.
And the book that Dad did about the house?
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
did
so
too.
I got 3
Too.
books, 1950, 51, and 52. That's when we built that house.
And then, of course, Mama and Dad were in California, and Daddy drew up the plans for this friends of ours in Bedford, and so it was for his daughter, this friend's daughter, and so his brother, her brother, did our fireplace. We bought we bought all our bricks and everything, but he built the fireplace for our house. It was, Daddy drew the plans, but then it was kind of a switch deal. There's always one way or another to find money.
The pine trees around the house, were those already there?
All
What,
there.
dear?
The
Yeah.
trees around the house, the pine
Yeah, they were all
trees?
there. Yeah.
Jimmy was still.
So you
didn't
built
want-
around
yeah,
them?
they've-
Because they were perfectly placed.
Yeah, well, that's the way he figured it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when he put up the batter board, see, somebody said, I never seen anything planned so.
That was a nice little lot.
It was a nice lot, yeah.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't, and
Corner
it's,
lot.
they say there's a nice
$200
young
for it.
couple in there
Isn't
now.
that something?
There's a
Yeah.
nice
Oh,
young couple
really?
in there
That's
now,
good.
and they said that she reminds them, Thelma says, well, he said she's a lot like me. Yeah. Anyways, we finally got we had the finish, when Mother and Dad came back from California,
What
we
were they
had to-
doing in California?
visiting Aunt Norma and Uncle Kenny.
Visiting
Oh, and they
Kenny,
stayed out
the-
there for a while.
Oh,
Kenny,
yeah,
the
6
boy
or
that
8
died.
months they stayed
Wow.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, they
yeah.
used to make
They
a lot.
stayed
They used to like making those car
That's where
trips,
Daddy,
huh?
my dad
He never
made-
drove a car till he was 50 years old,
He didn't till the war
Yeah.
came.
till the war came.
Yeah.
So he used to get out and get right the foot. He said, Crap, you're gonna wreck the friggin' engine. You don't do that, you know, you start it up
How come he
slow.
didn't drive a car? He didn't want to, or
He
he?
never.
I don't know, my
he
father
had
never
his
drove a car in his life. But I'm
You know.
talking about her father.
He used
Stuart-
to walk from
Stuart
Arlington
Open.
Center,
He
and,
never
you know.
drove a
He
car till he was
didn't need
50 years
cars
old.
maybe that much.
Well, he did. You know, he depended on travel, you know, cars and buses
My
and
father
stuff.
never drove a car.
But he had an awful try. He should have flunked his license, but I should have flunked mine too, come to think about it. But the fellow that was giving him the lessons, you know, kind of slid over all the mistakes that he
Yeah.
made.
So then
And
after
he
he
loved
got
it.
his license, he started taking these
Yeah.
trips to California, huh?
Yes. You know, he loved getting Mother out in the car and taking her
Sure.
for a drive. You know, he just, because he knew all those years he couldn't do that.
Yeah, he come home and says to me, "Oh, I didn't know it'd be this good." I said, "You drew the plans. This is what you drew, you know."
We had all the
Couldn't
finish
know it. I
done
can't believe he couldn't.
and the fireplace done. We had the floors done before Daddy
Yeah,
come
the
home,
floors
didn't
are all
we?
oak floors.
And the heat on.
Oak floor in every room except the kitchen.
We had the heat on,
Yeah.
and we moved, and David was gone June 9th. And was that 51 or something when David was born?
I forget. Is it raining again?
And
I thought I heard
we
something.
had David,
No.
we had
Just
David
raining.
downstairs, and you kids were upstairs, and that made me very nervous. And some mornings I'd wake up, you know, and you and Jack would be in the crib playing with David.
Counting his toes or whatever.
Yeah. So as soon as we could, we went upstairs. We got the rooms done one by one upstairs. Got them finished.
You know, Ted, I never shingled that roof in that house in 30 years. And then I was getting ready to sell it. At that time, that was 1980. We moved in at 50.
Right.
And then I said, well, put a new roof on the front to make it look better and to sell the house quicker, you know. And I just went over the old, right over the old shingles for another course. And it looked good. It made it presentable, you know. The back had a shed roof because we were dormers. And, yeah,
Dad, tell your story about the 1935 Ford that you and Rock went to look at.
That's it, yeah, but that's not really in the line with this. This is when I come out of the Army, I said, I gotta have a car, I gotta get a job, I gotta get a car. So Rocky said, oh, I saw a car in the paper, 1935 Ford. How many dollars? I forget. That's true. How many dollars was that for? I forget.
It's his story, huh,
50 or
Mother?
60, it wasn't very much.
I forget, I can't remember that, honey. So anyway, Rocky and I, we took his car, I didn't have a car. We went over to, was that Chelmsford?
It was Concord, I think.
No, I think it was
Chelmsford,
I think it was Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
okay.
And there's this car, 35 forward, snow right up to the windows in the car. Snow was about 4 feet deep or deeper. So the guy said, well, I heard the shovel, I can shovel it up and here's the keys and see if I can start it. So we shoveled out the front door and ripped it open. I said, wrong! The first time I did it, started up. I said, no, this is it, I want this. And I beat him down a little bit. And we drove a thing back to
Tewksbury.
Tewksbury. Yeah, I followed Rock or something like that. No license plates or nothing. And I had the thing, I don't know, 2-3 years. And I told us, we gotta get a better car than this. So I put an ad in the paper and the guy called me up and come look at it. He says, well, so anyway, he bought it, and then the next day he called me up. He says, I'm in New York. He says, what kind of oil do you use in this car? You didn't use a drop of oil. He drove it all the way to New York. Yeah. So anyway, I got rid of that. Yeah, those are hard times. Hard times. I got Rocky in the Union. Rocky was working as an automobile mechanic for about $1 a day or something, or whatever. I got him in the labor's union, and he was in it all his life after that. And a nice guy. Harriet's husband, my sister's husband. Yeah, nice boy. Yeah. So anyway, what else is we...
We getting tired of talking?
What else is
Yeah, I'm
to say?
You
trying
want
to
to take a
think of-
break?
I'm trying to think what the hell else I want to...
Well,
We're
we've
back
been talking here for some time about the lives of Elsie and Jim House. And we're thinking about closing this video pretty soon, but we have a couple more things we wanted to do. I would really like to hear my mother sing that song. Like I said, it sounds familiar to me, and I
Okay.
think you used to sing these songs when I was young
Oh, I sang all the time to the
and
kids.
playing the
Especially
piano
when
and
they were
stuff.
sick. Rock. Now, I never was one to rock my kids to sleep. If they woke up during the night too, I might take them downstairs and rock them a little bit. I never let them sleep in my bed with me. I would let them curl up in my bed for a while, and then once they got quieted down back in their beds, they went. And they always went good. But okay, here comes Ma. Ma. Are you singing it too?
No, you sing it.
Ma, he's making eyes at me. Ma, he's awful nice to me. Ma, he's almost breaking my heart. I'm beside him, mercy, let his conscience guide him. Ma, he's kissing me. I don't know whatever. I think that's as
That
far
was
as-
great, Mother.
Yeah, that
That's
was
as far as
good.
I went, I think, yeah.
That was great.
You like it, Blackie?
And so you were saying before when the video was turned off that you intend to see the century roll over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I got 6 more years anyway, as long as the Lord lets me.
Because you get your license for 6 more years.
Yeah. I got at least 6 more years, of course. I might have 6 after that too, you know. These people are living for 90 and 100 now.
That's right.
105, 120. I didn't.
How old was that lady in church, the oldest lady?
94.
94.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, great lady.
The youngest one was 31.
Yeah.
Mother's Day. You know, they picked
Oh,
the oldest
yeah.
one.
The youngest and the oldest mother, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for participating in the
Oh,
video
yeah.
today.
You're welcome, sure.
Thank you, darling.
I wanted to do it, and
Thank you for
It
asking
was a
us.
great thing to
That was
do.
nice.
What are you doing out there playing?
Ma, he's making eyes at me. Ma, he's awful nice to me. Ma, he's almost breaking my heart. I'm beside him. Mercy, let his conscience guide him. Ma, he wants to marry me. Be my honey bee. Every minute he gets bolder. Now he's leaning on my shoulder. Ma, he's kissing me. Little Lily was oh so silly and shy, and all the fellas knew she wouldn't bill and coo. Every single night some smart fella would try to cuddle up to her, but she would cry.
Ma, he's making eyes at me. Ma, he's awful nice to me. Ma, he's almost breaking my heart.
She's beside him.
Mercy, let his conscience guide him. Ma, he wants to marry me. Be my honey bee.
Every minute he gets bolder.
Now he's leaning on my shoulder. Ma, he's kissing me.
Ma, he's making eyes at me. Ma, he's awful nice to me. Ma, he's almost breaking my heart. If you peek him, you will see I'm gonna weaken. Ma, he wants to marry me. Golly gosh, oh gee. He makes me weak, he makes me nervous. I have never had such service. Ma, he's kissing me. Ain't she sweet? See her coming down the street. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kind of neat? And I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? There she is, that's what keeps me up at night. Oh gee whiz, there's why I can't eat a bite. Those flaming eyes, that flaming youth. Oh mister, oh sister, tell me the truth. Ain't she sweet? See you coming down the street. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh me, oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? Some confection, I repeat. Don't you think that's kind of neat? And I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Who's that coming down the street? Who's that looking so petite? Who's that coming down to meet me here? Who's that? You know who I mean. Sweetest who you've ever seen. I could tell her miles away from here. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, ma'am, we've decided. No, ma'am, we won't hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. By the way, when we reach the preacher, I'll say, with feeling, yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, ma'am, we've decided. No, ma'am, we won't hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. By the way, when we reach the preacher, I'll say, yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Well, look at that baby. Do tell, don't say maybe. Nell's bells, won't she cause some row? Pretty soon, we will hear that Lohengrin tune. Who for should she be, sir? No one else but me, sir. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. If you knew Susie like I know Susie, oh, Oh, what a girl. There's none so classy as this fair lassie. Oh, my goodness, what a chassis. We went riding, she didn't balk. From the country, I'm the one that had to walk. If you knew Susie like I know Susie. Oh, what a girl. I have got a sweetie known as Susie. In the words of Shakespeare, she's a wow. Though all of you may know her too, I'd like to shout right now. If you knew Susie like I know Susie. Oh, what a girl. She wears long tresses and such tight dresses. Oh, what a future she possesses. I had a mustache as cute as a pup. Susie kissed me and she burned the darn thing up. If you knew Susie like I know Susie. Oh, what a out in public she's meek and mild, but in the parlor, mother dear, come save your child. If you knew Susie like I know